In today's video, we're going to be installing a Pioneer mini split in a friend of mine's garage. This is going to be a single zone mini split install from start to finish. So let's get right into it. So this is what all comes with this kit. So we have our line set, we've got the communication wire, and this doubles as communication and power for the head unit. So the condenser will get power, and then the condenser will power the head unit via this wiring. Then we have this chase that goes through the drywall if you're going straight through a wall to the exterior, tape and some putty to seal that hole, and then our drain hose. Now, in addition to all of that, if you want to mount your condenser on a wall, some kits come with these, but I purchased these separately so that we can get this away from the ground where you can walk, and you can put it in an area that's out of the way. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as tools that we're going to need for this install, just a drill to mount our brackets, an adjustable and preferably a torque wrench so that we can torque the line set, these flare nuts, to the proper values. We're going to be using a manual flare tool. We'll show you how easy that is to use. A 2.5-inch hole saw to go through the drywall to the exterior. Now, if you have brick, you'll also need some sort of concrete bit to drill through that. You can rent those at Home Depot. And lastly, we're gonna need a vacuum pump so that we can pull any moisture out of this line set before we get the refrigerant into those lines. So that's pretty much all you're gonna need for the install. Very DIY friendly. All right, so here's our head unit. This is the Pioneer 24,000 BTU head unit. Everything came in packaged really nicely. I'll show you the condenser, however. We got some damages on the condenser, so we're in the process of getting a replacement on that. Here's our condenser, and as you can see, we got damages there, damages here, and pretty significant damage there. This thing is just beyond installing, so we're gonna get a replacement one of these. We're gonna go ahead and work on the head unit, and then once we get this, we'll just go ahead and pop it in, do our vacuum, and get everything up and running. I wanted to pause this video for just a minute to talk to you about something that has saved me so much time and energy. During the middle of summer, it's so hot, and I get all of these last-minute service calls, one after the next, and it gets daunting to have to save customers' information, talking to them on the phone. But Jobber offers something that is truly unique, and it's a request form. And what it does is, all I do is I send the customer a link that they can click on. It's a hyperlink, so they just click on it and it pulls up the form. They fill out their name, their address, their phone number, their email, what type of system they have, what the issue is that the system is doing, and it automatically saves everything into Jobber. And then I can create an invoice from there, and it saves me so much time. That's just one of the many features that I love about Jobber. It's really a great CRM for anyone who's in the service industry, not just HVAC. So if you're interested in checking it out and seeing if it's a good fit for your business, check out the link in the video description, and you can get a 14-day completely free, no obligations trial to make sure that it's a good fit for you. Let's get back into our video. So to start with, all of these mini splits have the same bracket on the back side, and it's just held in with this screw right in the center. So we're gonna start by removing that bracket. So this is where we're gonna be mounting the indoor portion of our mini split. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind here. Obviously this is in a garage, so it doesn't matter as much, but if you're mounting this in a home, you want this to be pretty centrally located, just so that we have good air circulation. And the other thing is, the manual says we need 6 inches from wherever this will have drywall eventually. So we need 6 inches minimum from where that drywall will be to the top of the indoor unit here. So we'll go ahead and get our bracket laid out here, and we'll go ahead and get that mounted, and we're gonna make sure that we hit these studs that should be on 16-inch centers. So something to keep in mind when you're mounting this back piece is the center point is actually right here where that screw was that holds this in place. This is not the center, so don't be fooled by this. This is going to be the center, so make sure use that as your center point. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hitting our studs. And then we've got these 2 that are actually going into our header above this window. So this bracket is very sturdy. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna mount this temporarily. And what the customer wanted to do here, as opposed to going straight out and out the exterior, since this is in a garage, we're gonna come out the left side, we're gonna go straight up, and then once this is sheetrocked, it's just gonna go straight up into the attic and over to our condenser. So we'll get this set up here and show you what it looks like. Now, as you can see, these units are designed to have either a left exit, a right exit, or you can come straight out of the building. So this is the opening that we're gonna use. So we're gonna knock out this little plastic piece right here, and then we're going to get our line set up and make our connections and run it out and then up. So something you want to do before you install this head unit is make sure that there's pressure in the coil. They send these pre-charged with nitrogen. So we're just going to crack this line right here. And as long as we get a little bit of pressure out of it, we're good. We'll go ahead and get our line set unspooled here, and I think we'll make our connections here and get this routed up into the attic, and then we'll go from there. So we're gonna be shortening this 3/8 line right here, and I wanted to show you how to use this manual flare tool. You probably saw my other NAVAC tool, but if you're not in the trades and you don't have that tool, you can pretty easily do this with this one. I believe this one's made by Rigid and actually Husky, and I got this one at Home Depot for about 48 bucks. So to start with, this is where we want our flare. We're going to need to deburr the inside of this line. So we're gonna grab our deburr tool and get that nice and clean first. So next we're just gonna slide this on to where the flare end is on the outside, and we're gonna go to the 3/8 one here. And we're just gonna make sure that if you look at this from the side, that it's completely flush. Then we're gonna crimp this down just by hand. And now, as you can see, we rotated this to where these little things are on the top, and those will go where this thing locks down. So we're just gonna slide this on, and we're gonna tighten this enough to where we can feel it grabbing on these. So we know this is our 3/8 since it grabs right there, and this will auto center. So we'll go ahead and lock this all the way down, get it nice and tight, and then we're just gonna crank this one down. And you'll notice what happens with this tool. It will auto release. So as you see, this is just spinning now. So once we go back, that little pin will grab and it will release. So now we can back this back off. And we'll take this off. And let's see what we got. And there you have it. Beautiful flare. So we'll just clean this up a little bit. And what's actually going to do the sealing is this cone on the inside. And as you can see, that cone looks really nice. There's no burrs or anything, and that will be perfect. So that's how easy this flare tool is to use. I'll make sure and leave this in the video description in case you're doing a mini split install. You definitely want this if you want your line sets to be fitted properly. The other thing that you can do is you can leave this spooled up. It just doesn't look as sightly if it's on the exterior of the home. But for this one, we could actually leave this coiled up in the attic, which is also an option. All right, so we have our 90s bent right there. So we're gonna feed this down. It's gonna come in the left side into this hole on the side here, and then we'll make our connections right there. So before we make our connections here, what we're gonna be using is Nylog Blue, and this is perfect for flare joints, just as an added measure of making sure we have a leak-proof seal. This is compatible with any refrigerant, so if you accidentally get some on the inside of this, it's not gonna harm the system at all. So what I usually like to do is just put it on the cone end of our flare joint here, and then just spread that around a little bit. Doesn't take too much. And you want to try and avoid getting it on the threads because the torque specs are a dry torque spec. So if you get liquid on it, you'll definitely throw off that measurement. So for our 3/8 line, we're going to tighten this one to 20 foot-pounds. And for our suction line, we're going to do 35 foot-pounds. So next what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and pop this drain hose on, and we're going to feed it out with where the refrigerant lines are coming out here. All right, so now that those are done, this part is definitely critical. We want to make sure that any metal that is exposed, we need to cover that, and we need to make sure that this is all taped to where no ambient air will get to these pipes, because otherwise you could have sweating and you could have water potentially coming out the side of the unit. So we're just going to go ahead and seal all of this, and then we'll be able to snap this into place. Okay, so before we mount this permanently, we're going to install our communication wire. So what we did is we just fished this down into the hole, reached back there and pulled it through. And this is the side that you're gonna want on the air handler side. And then these ones are the ones you want at the condenser. So the way these work is you'll just loosen one of these screws. This will slide up all the way until you can't see these metal pieces anymore, and you'll tighten them down. Now the color, all that matters is that you match 1, 2, and 3 with the same colors in here as they are outside. We'll put black, red, and white, 1, 2, and 3. As long as we match it on the other side, we're good. All right, so here's where we're at so far. We've got everything sealed up in here and taped, and then we just fed this down and clipped it into place. So everything is permanently attached here. We have a nice tight fit on our lines there. So once the drywall is up, we'll put a nice cover over this. And then our drain is actually gonna come out and go down the inside of this wall so that it's not on the outside. And then our line set goes up and over, and we just drilled our hole right here, which goes exactly right out to our unit. You can actually see the lines right there. So we're just gonna feed this through, and we're gonna get it mocked up, but this condenser is gonna be replaced since this one got all damaged, but we'll have everything set in place. So here's our bracketry for the outdoor unit. This whole top piece went right into that top plate. Now for these top 4, we used some lag bolts or screws that went into that top plate. And for these, we just used some 2-inch standard screws there. All right, so here's where we're at with the line sets. We just got these fitted, and I think these are gonna work really nice. They're gonna line up really nice. So we'll show you the inside. I've been using my Hillmore bender tool but you can do this by hand if you place these craftily. So our line set goes over, comes out there. Then we're gonna run the communication wire, and the high voltage wire is actually gonna go out through here into conduit. And then that's gonna travel up to our electrical right there, and everything will look really nice when it's done. So here's what we got so far. So our lines are fitted nicely. We've got our conduit running through this sleeve, both of our insulated lines, our communication / power wire for the head unit, and we're gonna go ahead and grate stuff all of this to where all of this is insulated and sealed so no critters can get in. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, all that's good and sealed. So we'll show you what the outside looks like. Our refrigerant light lines are fitted really nice, and we'll be ready to go once we get the new condenser. All right guys, so we got our unit mounted. It's decided it's gonna rain. Pioneer was real good about sending out this new unit, no dents or anything. And so our electrical, we just have L1, L2, and this white one we have wrapped in red. You can wrap it in red or black tape just so that they know it's not a neutral. And then as long as these communication wires match, that's all that matters. So at the indoor unit, we have black to 1, red to 2, and white to 3, and then our ground. And then we have this nice strain relief connector to keep everything watertight. So we're just gonna go ahead and pop this on like so, and then we'll be ready to evacuate the system. So we're gonna tighten this 5/8 to 35 foot-pounds. It says to tighten it, then loosen it a little bit and retighten it back to the same values. So there we go, 35 on that one. And we're gonna do 20 foot-pounds on this 3/8 line. So we'll just adjust this, 20 foot-pounds. And we did put nylon blue on both of these. We don't want to put it on the threads, just the face and the back of the flare is all. Okay, so we're gonna go to 20, back it off, and then we're gonna do that again. Okay, just backed it off. I'll go back to 20. All right, connections are done. We're gonna get our evacuation set up on here and get the system pulled down. So we just started this pump. It's 9:36. This is the Navac 4 CFM battery powered pump. And as you can see, I've got an adapter for a Milwaukee battery, which is really nice. And then we've got our True Blue evacuation hose here. As you can see, we just started this and we're already at 2300 microns. And right here we have, on these mini splits, you only have one service port. So we have our 5/16 core removal tool. We have our core removed. So this has a nice big opening to evacuate the system. And then once our vacuum is done and our refrigerant is in, we'll go ahead and put that Schrader core back in. But as you can see, we're dropping rapidly. As long as we're below 500 microns, this system is completely tight. We don't need to do a pressure test because there's just 4 connections here, and this micron gauge acts as a pressure test. If you had a leak, you wouldn't be able to get anywhere near 500 microns. So we'll give this a few minutes and we'll come back when it's settled at its number. All right, so we're down to 52 microns. As you can see, it's 9:44 currently, so it didn't take long at all. What we're gonna do is isolate, and as long as this does not go above 500 microns, we're totally fine. So you can see it slowly creeping up, it'll stabilize, and as long as we're below that number, we are golden. All right, it's been 5 minutes and we're at 150. We're well below that 500 micron range, so our decay test is good. And just FYI, this is a 5mm Allen head. And basically what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna open this, and all the pre-charged refrigerant in this unit is going to flow into these lines and into the coil inside. So we're just gonna fully open this up. And FYI, if you get refrigerant in your micron gauge, not a big deal. I clean these out periodically with denatured alcohol to keep them operating good, but it doesn't hurt the system. This can go up to, I think, like 500 PSI of positive pressure, so totally fine leaving this on temporarily. Okay, so both of these are fully opened. We'll go ahead and throw our caps back on. And lastly, we're going to put our Schrader core back in. So how we're gonna do this is we're going to feed this in, then we're going to tighten this part here. And the next part requires 2 hands, but we're gonna open this, and as you saw the pressure push this out, we're gonna use one hand to push this in and the other to tighten it until we feel that resistance, and then our Schrader core is set. All right, so the Schrader core is set. So we're gonna close this. We'll slowly open this side and let that pressure out. And then in order to check this actual Schrader core that it's working, we're just gonna slowly open this. And that's it. We can go ahead and take this off, throw our cap back in. Now, as far as the refrigerant, we're within 16 to 20 feet. So we don't really need to check the pressures on here. As long as our temperature drop or temperature rise is good, we're gonna let it run. And that pretty much completes our install. We're gonna put this cap on and then that cover over these lines. All right, so we just turned our breaker on. We're just gonna power this unit up. So we're just in auto mode. We're set to 72. So this will kick it into heating or cooling, and you can regulate it at whatever temperature you want, say 70 degrees. So already I can feel a ton of heat coming out, and I'll show you with our thermometer here. Earlier we had it going and it was, I think it got up to 116. So spitting out a lot of heat. So it's gonna do really well for this small garage here. Blowing 131 degrees right now. We'll show you the outside unit while it's running here. It's very quiet, blowing out a lot of cold air, which is exactly what you want in the heat pump mode. We've got our liquid tight fitting and our strain relief there, and everything's buttoned up here and working perfectly. Well, folks, it is as simple as that to install a Pioneer mini split. These are all very, very simple and pretty much the same across the board. I feel that any homeowner with some mechanical knowledge can do this with a very limited amount of specialty HVAC tools. As usual, you can find this equipment as well as all our favorite HVAC tools down in the video description at our Amazon store. Until next time, you guys be safe. Later.